A year ago, I got laid off. I started job hunting, but pretty quickly I realized that another job wasn't going to get me the life I actually wanted. I'd done the traditional path. I went to Harvard, I worked at Goldman Sachs, I'd even joined a unicorn startup. But the more I thought about what actually mattered to me, I realized it was freedom and time with people that I cared about. If you're at a crossroads trying to decide what to do next, then this one's for you. I'll show you what it's like to get everything you thought you wanted and start over for something new. Hi, I'm Yuks. I'm a baby YouTuber, and this is the story of my first adult gap year. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how exactly I'd get there. I've always been really practical. As a kid, I liked drawing and writing, but I always knew that the best way to keep doing those things was to get a job and fund those hobbies on the side. A lot of my Harvard classmates ended up at places like Goldman. One summer, I was interning near the Goldman office and I came out and ran into some of my college classmates. They were interning there, and when I approached, they closed ranks. It wasn't like I was talking to 4 individuals anymore, it was like I was talking to a single unit that didn't really want to talk back to me. If you've ever wanted something just because it felt exclusive, you might relate. It wasn't just about belonging, it was about getting into a place where I felt like an outsider, a secret place, if you know kind of energy. And I wanted that. I wanted to be an insider too. Once I got to Goldman though, I realized that nobody there actually cares if you're at Goldman Sachs. If you weren't cool before the Goldman name, you won't be cool after either. The first 2 or 3 years on the job felt like any other job, you're learning. But the 3rd year, I got a promotion, an early promotion, and a bonus that was worth my full analyst salary. I was shocked, and I also felt a bit weird about it because I was being paid so much, but I didn't feel the way I thought I would feel. I thought I would feel on top of the world. This is what I've been working so hard towards for the last 3 years, but I didn't. It felt like, okay, I got it. Now what? If you've ever reached a big goal and then thought, is this it? You might relate. I thought, am I supposed to keep aiming for this feeling for the rest of my career? So I realized work couldn't be my only focus. I needed to do something more out of life. I started taking creative writing classes and improv classes after work to start building an identity for myself outside of work. You can have a good 5 to 9 outside of your 9 to 5 with good boundaries. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's a cushy job, but there's a balance that you have to maintain. Because every year, everyone on your team gets stacked ranked against each other, and then the bottom 5% get cut. I was hyper aware of the impact of my work and explaining that impact to others, but I also was wanting to pull back so I could focus more on my own interests. I tried to quiet quit, but the issue was I was still very tied to the work and my reputation. If you're like me and you stay late to work on something even though you're told it's not going to matter, you might be a builder. Someone who takes great pride in the craft of what they're doing. Even if that work doesn't matter to stakeholders or the market, you've got your own standard of excellence to uphold. And it was hard for me to turn that side of my brain off, even though I knew that the work I was doing didn't actually matter. Imagine this. You make furniture, and you know that your clients don't really need the high quality that you're producing. In fact, some of them even ask you to lower your quality so that you can get them more furniture faster and cheaper. Well, you can do that for a while, but for a longer period of time, that tension between your own standard of excellence and what you're delivering, it's gonna start to eat at you. And it can just either make you feel a little dead inside because you keep ignoring that feeling, or it can make you feel like what you're doing is your level of excellence, that it actually is what you're fully capable of, and that can lead to imposter syndrome. It can be exhausting to continuously tell yourself, this work doesn't matter, it's okay to drop the quality. It started affecting how I saw myself. During the pandemic, it became even clearer because the happy hours were taken away. My hobbies and those classes that I was going to after work were taken away. So all I had left was the work that I was actually doing. Eventually, it didn't feel like I was trading time for money anymore. It felt like I was trading in a piece of myself. I realized that it's so much better when your life can be a flywheel, where what you do during work can contribute to what you do outside of work, and what you do outside of work brings something to what you do at work. I thought about moving teams, but my team had a bit of a cult mentality. This vibe of, we are the best team in the company, and every other team is either toxic or disorganized or just not as cool as this team. So it made it hard for me to want to leave. Looking back, I tell myself to leave sooner because I tried separating myself from work. I tried that for 5 years and it just didn't work. When I started looking for another job, I needed something as impressive as Goldman. Maybe not with brand name, but something else. And that's when I found the startup that would fly me to Paris. I thought if I could find a job that fit me better, then things would improve. So I found a startup job and it gave me a lifestyle that I really liked. I got to work on a product that on the surface was really cool, exciting, and hitting the same type of users that I could really relate to. The thing is, I believed in the problem we were solving, but I didn't believe in the solution. And I couldn't fake it either. Try this. Imagine your job without the perks, without the travel, without the people. Would you still like it? Would you still do the work? For the work itself, I just didn't believe in what I was doing. And I almost couldn't explain it, but sometimes your body knows something isn't right before your mind does. Other than that, my lifestyle was perfect. Then the layoff came. I started applying for jobs and then hit a wall. One thing that became really clear to me is how our motivations change over time. What we cared about at 25 is not the same thing that we'll care about at 30. I don't want to be like, hey, I used to really want to write a novel, but now that I'm older, I don't feel the same anymore. So when I feel now that it's time to build something, I want to act on it while I'm still motivated, while I still feel this way, while I still have that spark in me. What helped me make this decision was knowing that nothing's certain right now anyway. I see every day there's a recession coming, more layoffs are happening, and so it made me realize if this is all going on, if nothing's certain, I might as well be building my own thing. Because having a nest egg is really helpful for giving me options when I need them. I decided to spend the first 6 months of my sabbatical spending time with friends, going on travel adventures, because it was important for me to build those memories with those friends while I was still in London, and so I could look back on that time and have all of these memory dividends. This is also the year that I decided to reconnect with my dad's side of the family in China. I hadn't seen them in over 15 years, and it was time. I felt guilty about not keeping in touch more, about how I would get overwhelmed and ghost them because I would get all these messages in Chinese that I couldn't read. But now with technology, I could translate it, and so it was easier to communicate, and I felt ready to go back. When I first started my sabbatical, I thought it would be 6 months to a year max, but I essentially spent the entire first year experiencing life. And now that I'm at the beginning of year 2, I need to focus more on actually building a life that's financially sustainable. What I tell my past self is to commit harder to the experiments that I wanted to run to find a way to fund my life, to announce it at the beginning of each month, and then follow up with the results. I didn't do that. I didn't announce at the beginning of the month and then follow up because I was afraid of not following through. And I drifted a little bit from my goals. I don't regret how I spent that time because I spent it with friends and family. Those were important things to me. That's why I'm looking to go down this path in the first place. I'm really grateful that I had enough saved that would last me more than a year because it's taken longer than I thought it would. If you're thinking about doing a sabbatical, then think about how much time you need and think about doubling it. I've talked before on this channel about lifestyle entrepreneurs that I admire. Now that I'm away from the city, in nature, near family, then I feel like I have the perfect conditions to actually build the life that I've been talking about and to break some of the nervous habits that I've picked up from my Goldman days that lasted through the startup. Things like constantly reading and rewriting a sentence until it's perfect. For the next couple of months, I am committed to building in public and answering the question, can you find a life that you love? Can you make a life you love and still pay the bills. I thought I wanted to be an insider. I thought I could be happy with a boring 9-to-5 job that funded my hobbies, but none of that was enough. What I really wanted was freedom and time to spend with people I cared about. Going back to a 9-to-5, that door is closed. I have to go through the next one, and I hope you'll come along with me. If you'd like to follow along on that journey, please subscribe, and if you want to see how I've spent my whole gap year, then check out this playlist here.